And welcome back to Journey to the Light. I'm your host, Tony Ghazi, joined by Dan and Glenn, my dear brothers. And we're here today to discuss the difference between extraterrestrial and extra dimensionals. It's a really cool topic because, I feel like you may have some people that understand what those mean on a very surface level, but we're going to dig deeper into what they really mean from each of our perspectives as humans and also each of our perspectives from the other dimensional beings that we connect with. So, who would like to begin, Dan or Glenn?
Pass it off to you, Dan.
Okay, I will begin first. So my perspectives on things are very metaphysical and esoteric. Take what resonates with you and leave the rest. So I would define an extraterrestrial as a physical being like us that might exist in another density or an alternate dimensional space. But for lack of a better description, extraterrestrial, not intraterrestrial, because we have those as well too. Extraterrestrial would be any race or civilization that originates from another planet or another star system. So we're terrestrial beings. There's intraterrestrial species, which mainstream awareness knows nothing about. But extraterrestrial would be what you would commonly understand as like your Zetas, your Pleiadians, in a sense, those are the archetypal subspecies, which I will tell you, in creation, in the galaxy, in the universe, in the cosmos, every subvariant of what we have in terms of an animal or wildlife, insect, avian, canine, aquatic, all of our species that we have on Earth, there would be what you would identify as extraterrestrial subvariants of those species that exist on other planets and in other versions of reality. So that's what I would sort of, in a sense, give you an idea on an extraterrestrial being, which of course mainstream awareness only thinks that there are the little green men, which are the Zeta Reticuli, which are the large heads with the big black oval eyes. That's like what mainstream media tells us aliens are. But I want you guys to know that we as human beings are also alien. We are also extraterrestrial. And our archetypal species exists on hundreds of thousands of other planets. And so extraterrestrials, we are extraterrestrial. But for the sake of this episode, to keep it concise, what you would understand as an alien. Now, an extra dimensional, that's where we're getting into alternate versions of reality. We're looking at different density frequencies, alternate dimensions, which of course is the height, the width, the space, and even time as a variable of what makes up a dimensional framework. So there are entities that aren't exactly extraterrestrial, like the little green men that come from Zeta Reticuli on another planet, from another constellation, but rather they're from alternate dimensions, alternate densities, alternate versions of our reality as well too. So these you would almost look at as being like in a different frequency band, like a different vibrational frequency. So they wouldn't exactly be on another planet. They would actually be in their own total version of dimensional space. So even if, let's say, for example, let me give you an analogy and I'll pass it off to one of my brothers. To give you an analogy of how I interpret an extra dimensional being, let's say you had a starship, an advanced starship, and you could fly from planet Earth to, let's say, Cassiopeia. And in Cassiopeia, there is a planet with beautiful blue-skinned aliens that are as flesh and blood as you and I. And they have a civilization, and they have buildings, and they have their own starships and their own science and culture. And you could physically go from planet Earth to Cassiopeia to their planet where there is this beautiful, in a sense, 3D physical race like us. And you land on their planet and you exit your ship and you shake their hands. That is an extraterrestrial being. But an extra dimensional being would be, say, for example, you would go from planet Earth to Cassiopeia to the planet with the beautiful blue species, but you wouldn't see this race because they're in their own alternate dimensional frequency band or their own alternate density frequency band that you don't perceive with your 3D senses like you do the beautiful blue beings, because they're in their own alternate dimension. So that's jumping like a whole different frequency vibration in order to perceive their energy. So if you use the analogy, which I think we are going to do an episode soon on the concept of densities and dimensions, but to briefly touch on that to set you guys up for the next episode, is that we exist in the 3D, the third density, in a sense, and then there it would be a fourth and a fifth and a sixth, and there is its own total existence of races and beings just like us that are in their own dimensional frequency band. So if you went to Cassiopeia in a spaceship and you landed on the planet, you wouldn't perceive these beings, because even if they're on that planet, they're in their own version, they're in their own dimensional framework of that planet's space. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for that explanation. That was awesome.
Who's next, my
I
brother?
want to take it a little bit further and kind of just, when we talk about dimensions and densities, which is, that's the whole other topic that will go almost hand in hand with the difference between extraterrestrials.
That's right.
Extra dimensionals. The extraterrestrials, we can kind of wrap our head around a little bit easier because it's physical, tangible matter. We can kind of facilitate the thought process a little bit easier that way.
Right.
But what sometimes I like to use is the analogy of when you shine light through a prism, you get a rainbow.
Mm.
So white light is one frequency of a density.
Mm.
And when you shine that white light through the prism, it elongates to Roy G. Biv. Roy G. Biv is the mnemonic for all of the colors in that spectrum: red, orange, green, yellow, blue, indigo, violet. I remembered some of that from my science. Mm-hmm. And then we have ultraviolet, then we have infrared, then we have far infrared. So there's many different frequencies that fall in between. So it's really interesting when we talk about the dimensions, because all they really are is a gradation of a bandwidth of a frequency.
I completely agree with that. That's how I see it as well too.
Right? And that kind of gives people, okay, I can understand that. So one beam of white light can actually be much, much more than just one single beam of light. And in that particular one beam of light exists many different beings that don't have a physical body, or they may be able to morph in and out of that physicality. They may have the ability to have that interdimensional range of that frequency. So maybe they resonate with that red, orange, yellow frequency. And what that means to them as an interdimensional is that they can kind of come in and out of that physical state, right? And one of our beings that we can commonly say is here on Earth is Sasquatch.
That's right.
Right?
Good call.
But Sasquatch, from the way that I've understood it, and the way that I've been told in my truth of historic response, is that Sasquatch was the original humanoid that existed on this planet, very indigenous to this planet, whereas we as the human beings were seeded into this through an extraterrestrial race. But the evolutionary process of that original hominid was actually Sasquatch. And they had, through their evolutionary process, that they learned how to come in and out and to modify frequencies. And even though we can't see them all the time, that they're actually here quite often. And, we can even expand on the experience that we've had when we do our Sasquatch call.
Oh, Tony.
And then
the Sasquatch call.
That's another
And then
episode.
we bring them into our awareness. It's like saying, hey, are you here? Like, hello, are you here? Or boom, 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 hello, are you here? And we get a response back. And that's the way that I see that, interdimensional being is, whereas the extraterrestrial, when we experience that, or when we bring that thought to mind, that we understand that it is a particular race that comes from another planetary system that has the ability and the technology to travel, whether it be by their mind or whether it be by bending space and time through mechanical processes in quantum physics in order to achieve that nonlinear space between planet to planet.
So interstellar.
Interstellar. Absolutely. Tony, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, well, I'm super happy that you guys explained it the way that you explained it, because for our viewers, I could never have explained it that way. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a biologist. I can't speak in those terms. That's not who I am. But everything you said is cool and awesome and resonates. I'm going to bring in more 3D and speak about some of the beings just to help our audience, in a sense, visualize what that means, because we spoke about concepts of, interdimensionality and extraterrestriality, if that's even a word. And it's funny that you mentioned, I'm like Sasquatch, because I was going to mention Sasquatch. I believe Sasquatches are interdimensional beings, although like they are physical, right? And I don't know if I did necessarily, and there's no right or wrong way, guys, because the infinite is the infinite. There's versions of everything. There's a version of what I'm saying that's infinite. I feel that Sasquatches do come from other planets. I don't think they're tied to humanity. That's my feeling. Okay. But this is not about a right or wrong. It's just about how I feel. I know they're interdimensionals, and although like they're physical, they have the ability to travel. So the good way that comes to my mind that I understand is within the folds of like the universes. So if you create like a pleated skirt, like for example, I don't know why that's coming to me, like within each fold. So like this is one pleat and there's another pleat, there's another pleat. On each surface of the pleat is a fold of the universe that's interfolded for like infinity. And depending on the frequency of things, you may merge into 2 or 3 realities at once and observe all, or you may just be on one frequency where you jump from one plane to another. And like the other example that came like through my mind as you both were speaking is if I look up onto like the stars and like let's say I'm just traveling through space and I just passed by the moon and I'm passing by some other planet and then the sun and blah blah blah, whichever frequency and vibration I'm on, I can perceive and see the beings that are on that frequency on those planets. If I shift my frequency and go in with a different intention, I will see different beings on the same planet that are on a different frequency. Yeah. And it even goes on, it's more complex than that. That
makes sense to me.
Yeah. That's a very kind of easy way to understand because listen, if you add all the layers, the infinite layers together that are intertwined already with everything within the grid lines of creation, which we spoke in our other episode last week about like grid lines, it gets very complex for our physical mind to be able to really comprehend the infinite. But there are many ways of understanding those. Now, I can capture, and I've captured on my phone all kinds of beings. So I have this light being that's kind of fairy-ish like. She doesn't look like, I don't know why I keep saying she, but I have a feeling of a she. She does not look like a fairy. She's like 2 eyes that are pure light, just danced in front of my screen. So to me, I'm wondering, is that into like dimensionality or yes, because it's pure light. It's not physical in the sense of skin and flesh and bone or like whatever the case may be. Like my mantis beings that I connect with are of pure light, but there are also like other mantises that are like physical that live on planets. The grays, right? You have grays that are like physical, and like you have some that are semi-physical, right? Quasi-physical, between the light and between the physical. So it gets quite complex, but yeah, and I think that's where I need to like.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was very eloquent. And I know that you feel like you didn't have like the technical terms that we did, but your perception of the way that it works when you know through your intuition, the way you described how you see all of the different races and species on the planet and all of their overlapping bands, that makes total sense to me. And in a sense, that's a great description of how I see it as well too. So thank you for contributing that.
Of course.
Daniel, you connect to some beings too. Like many of the viewers may not know that you also are a channel.
That's right.
Can you speak to a little bit about the being that you connect with?
Yes. Yes. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. So I am in a sense, what they call like a trance channel. So when I go into my altered state, it is like a very deliberate mechanical process of shifting my brainwave frequencies. And I taught myself how to do this in 2015 for a sci-fi movie that I felt really called to produce called Those Who Seek. Because when I first connected to this race, to this species, they gave me this message that the information would be there for those who seek it. So the movie was called Those Who Seek, and it was about my journey into channeling. And so I taught myself how to actually channel for the movie. And so the race that I naturally connected to first was called the Za of Orion. And when they say their name, they really like accent and drag out the word Za. So it's Z-A-A-H, but they would say Za, like they would almost sing it. And they are a very benevolent, full disclosure, disclaimer here, they are a peaceful, benevolent, loving reptilian race, or what we call Sauroid, right? Because not all reptilians are evil and scary. This is a very peaceful, loving extraterrestrial race from Rigel B in Orion. And so they, in terms of dimension, they would, I like to use the gradient term density instead. They would be fifth density is where their frequency would exist. So they're not exactly like 3D like humans are on Gaia, but they would be physical to themselves and physical to other 5D races, but they would be higher density or higher dimensional from the perspective of Earth. And so they are a very peaceful, loving reptilian race. You could imagine like a Yoda type entity, where their average, I'll give you a brief description of them because I like to tell people what they look like to disarm the idea, the trigger term of reptilian, right? So they never get really taller than about 4 feet. They're very small, very sweet. They oftentimes wear robes, like I'm wearing my cardigan robe. They wear robes and hoods, but they also have these cool, like little Star Trek style spacesuits that they wear as well too. They have this beautiful skin that works almost like a color spectrum of evolution. So the younger that they are, they have a very green, very earth green, and then they go through like browns as they get older. And their species is almost separated in class types. So they will have scientists, they'll have ambassadors that work in extraterrestrial communication from their race to other planetary races and species. Then they'll have workers who do a lot of their construction and their designing and their architecture. And they'll have healers, right? So they're almost like broken up into class types. And the ones that are like historians, the ones that are healers, the ones that are contact specialists and ambassadors, they tend to turn this beautiful purple color. Their skin tone, the older that they get, their wisdom almost shines through their skin, and they'll get like these sparkly, almost glitter like blues. And so they all have sort of like this varying gradient of color. They're very wise, like a Yoda type entity. They're very metaphysical. They love humanity. They love humans. And the reason that they explain that they exist, like their purpose, their mission statement as a species, is that they want to help heal the reptilian archetype. So that means all of the trauma, all of the conflict and wars that derive from reptilian military and reptilian wars. If we're getting into the concept of the Orion Wars, these are all heavily reptilian based, malevolent species involved. And so their existence is to counterbalance that energy, to heal. So they call themselves first contact specialists and ambassadors for races that aren't quite interstellar yet, but might be getting to the point where they're having open contact with extraterrestrial races. And the concept of reptilians is so coded in our DNA and our incarnational lineage and our memories of the Orion Wars that even if you've never seen a reptilian, positive or negative, our first response as humans is to react in fear and to react in protection and self-preservation, because we have a long history of dealing with reptilian species that were, in conflict and they were war-based. And so the Za of Orion, they exist solely to heal that energy, to balance it, to serve as a more positive polarity of some of that more negative history that we have in the Galactic Federation's history. That they are ambassadors of peace, they are ambassadors of love. They absolutely love to teach about their culture. And the reason why they're first contact specialists in the reptilian species archetype is because of the way they look. They look very peaceful, very non-threatening. They're oftentimes much smaller than 3D races, so that they're less threatening in terms of their size and their stature and their demeanor. They're funny, they're complimentary, they're very demonstrative. So they're a peaceful race, and they come in peace, and their mission is love, and their message is love, and their message really above all else is healing. So that's the Zaw of Orion. And what I'll do is, if you're listening to this episode or you're watching it, I'll cut in some pictures of what they look like, some imagery, so you can get a sense of their physical appearance. So you can see how disarming it is. They're very peaceful, they're very sweet, they're very approachable, and they're here to help.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Like, I have to kind of like scream this out. I'm super happy that you mentioned and like spoke about the reptilian race as being peaceful, because through the mantis beings, they like allowed me the portal to connect to a lot of other beings, to dragon energy, to reptilians. And immediately I felt love. And now, of course, you can connect to other reptilian races that aren't,
Right.
but it depends on which vibration and frequency and intention you're with, that you kind of have those connections. But I felt, and I never, ever, ever felt that the reptilians are, and I mean, even within, I'm going to take it a step further, maybe a bit challenging, like for people, even within the reptilian race or any like race that's not, I guess, peaceful, however you want to like describe it, to others within their own like family, they have peace, they have love, they have. So I come from the belief system and like knowingness beyond like the like belief system is, when we see a reflection of violence or a reflection of threat or a reflection of whatever I guess friendly, that reflection is happening to us, really.
Right.
Because I felt other reptilians that may have been perceived as not being loving, I felt the love within their own community. So I cannot imagine and like fathom a loving community to be not loving outside of their community, if that makes sense.
Right.
Everything
Yes.
is a reflection of what our transition is and what we're going through to allow us that ascension to love. So that's my piece of the evening.
Thank you for adding that.
Thank you. You know, Tony, you connect to the mantis being collective. Can you give us a description of that extraterrestrial race, as how they explain themselves and how you perceive them?
Yeah. So look, when they came to me during a past life regression, my first past life regression, they showed up as the head of the mantis. It was a very clear knowingness. I'm a mantis being. Immediately after that, it was a tall silhouette of pure light. I don't know, 20 feet, 12 feet, very high. And I could feel the expandedness of who they are. Like, even though they're trying to help me understand who they are, my mind was really fighting who they were, because
Sure.
there was also an embedded knowingness that my physical mind is unable to comprehend really, really, really who they are and their infinite essence of their perspective of who they are. I'm speaking of the perspective of infinity, but how they view themselves in the infinite of all. And also, like, there was a knowingness that they are literally within the fabric of like the universe. They told me that they create universes and like planets and worlds. They're the architects, like some people, I call them the architects, and like the founders. I wouldn't say like of creation, because I know, but just the architects of the fabric of creations in the sense of what they create, right? They also are massive healers. There's like geneticists, and they have worked like alongside the Greys and many other beings that people have not perceived yet in the overseeing, like the overseers of like bigger healing programs on like the masses, like in a sense, and of the hybridization program too. right? So they're involved, their hands, because they're the architects of the fabric of the universe, their hands are intertwined in everything at all times. So what we perceive, so like for example, if like one person has had the image or like the remembrance of seeing a praying mantis like standing behind the grays, that's one small sliver of what they're doing in that current moment of the all now moment, you know?
I'd love to add something too. I appreciate what you're saying. So on tonight's topic episode, what Tony's describing to me is a good example of an extra dimensional being.
Thank you.
He just mentioned, okay, if you see a mantis standing behind a zeta, a gray, that almost be like an extraterrestrial. But what he's describing in terms of the mantis from the higher dimensional plane that they're creating realities from, that's an extra dimensional being. And fun fact, I briefly mentioned the Orion Wars, which is a big theme of what I think that Earth is transmuting now, is that Tony's long incarnational lineage from like an Akashic Records perspective of the mantis actually worked directly with my starseed origin race during the Orion Wars, which is a canine human hybrid race during the Orion Wars. Tony's race actually helped us. So Tony and I, collaborating in this life as humans, have a long history working together as extraterrestrials on other planets during cosmic conflicts where it's like it seems that he and I travel together, helping each other and collaborating artistically and creatively throughout the multiverse, right, Tony? Because here we are now as humans doing the show, and we're doing retreats, and we're doing movies and videos and films, and we're also good friends, right? We're fast friends, but it goes back to like major galactic wars where my planet was like under heavy attack and Tony's species helped. And so this is Oma. It is the movie titled Oma, which is how my starseed race from the Orion Wars connects now to planet Earth Gaia. So that is a very rare behind the scenes moment. That's a gift that I made for Tony because he and I are producing the sci-fi epic together, where the Orion Wars, from my belief structure, converges to Earth. So my extraterrestrial race was a very humanoid species like humans, but we're also hybridized with canine. So we're not like full werewolves, but we're also not like full human either. And that species that we're depicting in this film, Oma, which will be out this summer, was incarnationally, if you look at things historically speaking, was a race that Tony's mantises actually helped survive the war. So that's a very beautiful thing I like to touch on, because you guys have to understand in terms of extra dimensional, it's certainly not bound by time or space. And so Tony and I have a long history working together, both on this planet and in others. Yes. And so I wanted to add that his mantis beings are extra dimensional, and they probably are the same species that helped my canine race linearly millions of years ago. Think about that. Consider that.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that we're still, part of our life here on this planet Earth, that we're still processing out all of those traumas that we sustained.
Absolutely.
In the Orion.
Absolutely.
So that's still an evolutionary process that is coming through, because there really is no time. Right. That's another subject for another whole nother episode. But I wanted to bring in some of the beings that I'm very blessed and fortunate to channel, and I channel the collective of Native American Indian chiefs. And which I would consider more interdimensional, because yes, at one point in time they did have a human life and they did walk upon this physical earth, but that's not where they are now. When I see them, I see a collective that speaks only to one voice, which is quite unique. And I think Tony can resonate with that too, because Tony speaks to the mantis being collective. So he's hearing the singularity of an idea, of a concept, of a thought, of an idea that comes through him in his interpretation. They're using his vessel as words. And that's very similar how that comes together for me. It's not like I'm speaking to, Chief Blackfoot or, an individual. I can feel different personalities at certain times, but it comes through as one voice, and it's this very loving, heart-centered, long depth of wisdom that comes out in the words. And it's quite unique. And also, I've just started working with our new arrival artifact, Anubis, which is going to be a continual work in process. And even as I've been connecting with him, I feel that it comes in a singular voice, but I do want to say that I feel there's more to this as this unfolds, which is going to be a great story, because I think that there's a collective behind this figure of Anubis, which is just, it's a great journey to be on. So, I kind of get both of the differentials between the extra terrestrial and the extra dimensional.
Yes.
So it's quite unique, and it's just it's fun to understand their different perspectives, and that's even another topic. We hear information from different beings, but we also have to understand that what they're saying is from their perspective. Just as we, as a human living this human life, have our perspective of the way certain things are, or the way that they operate. But it doesn't give us that 360-degree view of the all that is all, because we're giving just that little piece, of that little perspective of what our fractal is and how we see that contributes to the all that is the all.
Well said, my friend.
Yes.
Well said, brother.
Yes, very well. I have a lot to say, but I'll keep it for the next episode. We're near our time.
Yeah, that's right. The show is coming to an end, my friends. So allow us to make some special announcements. And this evening, Tony would like to show us his special mantis crystal skulls. Can you give us a brief tour, Tony?
These are so cool.
Yes, so these are the only one in the world because nobody else makes them. These are crystal skulls that are made all by hand, and they're activated by 20 million year old amber that I have with a praying mantis inside of it. They're also activated by the 8,000 year old artifact, the Anubis Islantia tablet. And the whole intention is like to allow you to connect with your like with your higher self, like with your galactic guides, to like break away like barriers of all kinds of limitations, to really allow you to re-empower yourself as a divine being. I have all sizes and shapes. I have large, I have medium, I have smaller than a medium, and now I just began making some necklaces, small tiny mantises that you can hang on your neck. And you can carry it with you. I have 4 colors. Yes, I have light blue.
Tony, if somebody wanted them, where could they find them?
Well, they can go to my website and then send me like an email. The website is actually being I'm like revamped right now. I'm like to add a store. So if you just send me an email, I can send you a video or a few photos of what I have. And then once the store is up, which will be in a few weeks, then you'll be able to have access almost immediately. But if you have any questions, or always email me, that's the best way, and we'll go from there.
And I have physically held those and physically touched those, and I also have my own mantis skull.
Yes.
So highly recommend.
Yes, and like these are the bigger ones. Just like quickly, this is like the bigger side. This doesn't have a nose because it's all like crystalline here, right? We try to make it as and like look at the crystal.
Yeah, little
Very
geodes.
authentic.
Thank
very,
you. Yes.
very earthy.
Yes. And they are the only one in the world because I searched up and down all over the internet to try to find them. Nobody makes them, and
You are the one.
I am the one. Thank you. Well,
Tony Gossi
Highly
is
recommend.
the one.
They're activating.
They are very activating. You'll feel their energies, and of course, you're a divine, powerful being with your intention. You can really activate them to propel you any dimension that you choose. Speaking of extraterrestrials, extra dimensionals, you'll have the opportunity to really connect, and if you want to channel, whatever it is, it's a true portal to get you to the beyond the matrix that we live in.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel, do you have any announcements?
I would like to announce that I am traveling all summer with my friend Tony Ghazi, the Antarian Heart. And the Moment Imaging, which is my creative video service, will be responsible for capturing all of Tony's live events. So if you are ever interested in meeting or interacting with myself, my partner Lauren, I would highly suggest going out to some of these excellent programs that are going to be happening throughout the summer, which Tony can tell you the dates that he'll be appearing at, because Lauren and I may be there with him. But even more importantly, you could also come and interact with us directly at the Stargate Crusader Retreat, which will be happening this July, where it is a 3-day all-inclusive event that I myself and my partner Lauren will be the media team responsible for filming that, because we are a full-time, full-scale media department in terms of video. So we will be there, and we would love to have you guys participate and come check it out. And Glenn can tell you more about that as well. And then I would also direct you to my YouTube channel, where I produce a regular content in terms of metaphysical podcasts just like this. I have a lot of content, vlogs, and I would love to see you there on my YouTube channel. And let's connect.
Thank you, Daniel. Yay!
Brother Glenn.
If you're around in July, if you're looking for something to do, if you're looking to expand, to explore, to experience more of what we're talking about, learning more about metaphysics, learning more about spirituality, and of course, learning more about the person that's really inside that's waiting to come out, to be the true self that you truly are meant to be. Please, I invite you to join us at the Stargate Crusader Retreat. It is a 3-day, 2-night event. It is fully immersive. And I mean, from the moment that you walk in to the moment that you're ready to get into your vehicle and go home, you are being immersed, you're being bathed, you're being supported in knowledge, experience, and all types of metaphysical and spiritual meditations. A CE5 will be human contact of extraterrestrial, extra dimensional beings that we just spoke about. And Tony Ghazi is bringing along his night vision camera so he can capture all of your manifestations that come through, and will also be able to see all of this directly from the beach of Madison, Connecticut this July, along with Tony Ghazi, Daniel James, Lauren Bridge from the Moment Film Company, and you'll also have Rob Gauthier, Debbie Solaris, Nicolette Morgan, Tyler Ellison, Stephanie Torratore, Michael Rosenbaum, myself, and we invite you to come spend some time with us to expand your consciousness. So thank you. You can find us at www.stargatecrusader.com, and it is a limited enrollment, so there's only 34 participants to 9 presenters, so we want to let you know that please get your event pass soon, because it will be sold out shortly. Thank you.
And then the Anubis artifact will be with us, and the 20 million year old mantis. Let's see if it's gonna work. Oh, there you go.
There it is.
There he is.
So
That's cool.
yeah, so this will be with us as well, so you can touch, feel, and truly connect to that energy and get activated in ways you never thought of. Truly, this artifact you would only find at a museum, and even when you go to the museum, you cannot even touch that thing because it's encased in. But I was really called to share this artifact with the world because it has all the encoded energies and memories for you to be activated and get connected to the beings that you need to connect with in this now moment for your ascension. And I would like to also say just quickly, because the mantises, as Glenn were speaking, were saying, say this, say this, say this. You are always, always, always supported. You are never alone on your journey, ever. There are guides, there are saints, there are angels, Christ energies, Buddha energies, extraterrestrials, extra dimensionals, consciousness, intelligence energies that are always with you, guiding you throughout your journey. So do not ever think that you are alone. That was a message they really wanted to bring through this evening, that you are always supported, even though in your physical reality you may perceive yourself as being alone. That is never ever true. There are always beings that are supporting you and standing behind your shoulder and guiding you through your journey. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that special message, Tony. And thank you, Mantis Beings, for joining us with us.
Chill. You see the chills?
Yeah. Tony, can we find you on social media?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. Oh my goodness, what else? All the social medias at the Antarian Heart. But if you go if you go to my website at www.tonygazi.com, TONIGHAZI.com, all of the handles and links are there that will take you straight to my social media, if that's easier for you.
Awesome. Daniel, do you have social media?
Yes, Mr. Glenn, I do. Brother Glenn. Everybody can look me up on Instagram. I have 2 Facebook accounts, and then I would love for you to check out my YouTube channel, where I do produce a variety of spiritual content like this as well, where you can also get updates about our big sci-fi movie, Oma, and then also the Moment Imaging, which we have a website, a Facebook, a YouTube, and Instagram, and we would love to connect with you guys.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X at Glenn Divine Phoenix, and you can find me on X at 01 Divine Phoenix, and my website is www.divinephoenixhealing.org. So thanks for joining us. This was great. We love you guys. We love you subscribers. We love you like people. We like you that are all in the chats. And thank you for taking the time to see us, to spend some moments with us. Make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe if you like our content. We can't wait to share more with you. So please join us and look for us in the future. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We love you.
We love
See you
you
next time,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.